So let's raise the big questions here on the news today. Is brand Bengaluru under threat? Can a global city today really afford quota wars? How can any government meet local aspirations then? Will a quota lead to labour shortages? Just some of the questions we'll raise. I'm joined by Captain Gopinath. Remember, he was one of the startup drivers of Bengaluru all those decades ago. Good to have you, Captain, on the show. And Chandan Gowda, a political analyst, also joins us. Thank you both very much for joining us. Good to have both of you on the show. Captain, to you first. Within hours of the Karnataka government announcing that they are pushing for reservations for Kannadigas, especially in C and D category in private companies, there's been a bit of an uproar. NASSCOM, other industry bodies saying that this is a bad step. This will only lead to perhaps investment moving out of Bangalore, Karnataka. How do you respond? Do you believe that this is populism, nativism gone out of control?
I think it is totally a regressive step from a progressive state. It is unacceptable and shocking. I can't imagine that anybody in this age will do that. It is also shocking from the sense that they're doing exactly what the BJP did in pushing through legislation because they have a majority now, without debate, without dialogue, with all stakeholders, especially industry and local other think tanks. They should have debated it and considered it. But also, as you know, in Haryana itself, in November, it was struck down and they reserved 75%. What I'm reading today is that they reserved 100%, they reserved 50% in the top management in all kind of industries, including shops and establishments, and 50% in top management, and 75% in clerical and lower level jobs, managerial jobs, second level managerial jobs, and 100% in the C and D category. It is outrageous because it will be that Bangalore, not the question of brand Bangalore. I think the Bangalore and the state will suffer because I don't think anybody will come and invest in Karnataka if whether it is Toyota or Volvo or IBM or even Infosys. I mean, this is. But no,
so
migration
you're saying migration in a way is perhaps part of the of global economies, of national economies now. Borders are melting. But I'll come to you back in a moment, Captain, because Chandan Gowda, speaking to politicians, they across this country believe they have constituencies to cater to. So Siddaramaiah and Shiv Kumar will have their Kannadiga constituency to cater to, much like Manohar Lal Khattar in Haryana last year when he announced 75% for locals, had his Haryanvi constituency in mind. So there's the economic argument, which has been made here by Captain Gopinath, saying it's a bad idea. But there'll be those who will say what makes perhaps bad economics could make good politics. Is that the reason you think the Karnataka government is trying to push with this? Nativism still matters?
Rajiv, it's difficult to see this as only a populist measure because it has come up suddenly, I must say. There was no prior discussions about this being tabled, etc. But it's still a bill. I would like to just remind Professor Gopinath, it's bill at the stage of the bill. It means a draft open for discussion. It'll invite comments from all stakeholders, etc. But Rajiv, just to give you a little bit of a history to this demand for reservations for locals, it's a 4-decade-old thing. Initially, the request was that all the government jobs in the public sector units must be reserved for Kannadigas, but the private sector was never mentioned. But that also came to figure, especially when there was a sense that a lot of the new firms in Bangalore were being managed and driven by non-locals, etc. These sort of tensions have been lingering. And if you think about why Andhra Pradesh, Haryana, and Jharkhand did similar moves, whatever we may want to, not accept in terms of its populist intentions, I think with the kind of migration that's happening in the country at this point, and the fact that it's in India as a federal setup with linguistically organized states, you can't simply say laissez-faire will somehow work everywhere. I think, I would have been delighted if I'd heard the NASSCOM people say, thank you, you've brought a concern to our notice. We'll see how best to handle it from within ourselves. We'll see how best to address this tension or this difficulty, right? I mean, we
No,
don't
but, no,
need a
but could
law
we
to
have been, no, but
control our
Chandan,
own
could
code.
there,
Yes.
no, yeah, when you say that NASSCOM, perhaps rather than sort of speak out against this bill, should understand concerns, anxieties of locals, maybe the government should have also made a distinction between jobs that perhaps are seen as C and D category and highly skilled jobs. You can't,
They have
you
done
see,
that.
when
They have done that
you know,
already.
they will
Rajdeep.
have to make that distinction.
No, they've already done that. The 70%.
No, they've said
quotas for the C and
75%
D.
for one, 50% for the other. The fact is that at some stage you're going to have to make the distinction much sharper.
Yeah, no, but Rajdeep, they also say exceptions can be made. They also say 50 can come down to 25%. There's all these things. I think we need to look at the fine print. I frankly will not, welcome a sort of a blanket sort of, cut and dried categories like this. But some reflection from within the private sector that there may be a genuine problem here and we need to address it would be welcome to see at this point, instead of a complete pushback. Yes.
That's interesting because Captain Gopinath, let's look at the history of this. We can go back to the 1960s in Maharashtra. Parties like the Shiv Sena came to power, or at least aspired to come to power, by claiming that they stood for local interests, that the natives, if I may call that, of a state deserve preferential treatment. So it's not as if this began only now in Karnataka. This has had a long history across the country. And because there's been so much of migration, therefore there's also a growing sense of anxiety. So Kannadigas will believe, look, we must get the first right in a city like Bengaluru. Bengaluru belongs, they believe, to Kannadigas first.
Yeah,
I think.
Has never been. Sorry, please, Captain.
Was it for me?
Yes, go ahead, Captain.
I think I think in the long run it will prove the disadvantages to Kannadigas. Kannadigas, by nature, are not people who have been migrating to other states, apart from a few entrepreneurs in the IT. It's more, you can see when in Bangalore, you've got more Keralites and Tamilians, and you also have North Indians. It's not just in the IT. I mean, if you look at Swiggy or Zomato or restaurants or beauty parlors, you have free movement of labor and free movement of goods. That is the key to economic growth. And what the government should do is to ensure that minimum wages are met and industries follow those kind of minimum wages. There is, of course, reservation for government because, as you know, that.
No, but what happens to the political argument? Captain Gopinath, you're giving me the economic argument. There should be free movement of goods of labor. What about the economic argument? What about the political argument that I am a politician from Karnataka? I have a constituency which is saying, look, we need jobs first.
No, you are not serving your constituency. You are serving your own, desire to win elections. You're not providing any jobs because if industry collapses, Karnataka will suffer the most. As it is, we know that in all sectors in Karnataka, there are migrants, including agriculture. We have many big farms have agricultural labor that has moved from Jharkhand and Bihar because sufficient labor is not available. That is a law of a good vibrant economy. Migrants are the engine of growth, and they move up the value chain. And Kannadigas
but politicians want to win elections. But Captain Gopinath, politicians want to win elections. So their constituents are the Kannada speaking, the local Kannadigas. How do you cater to their interests? What do you tell them then?
They should give them good education. They should give them good skill development. That is the way to do the economics for your constituency. It is not through reservations, because then if it's reservations, industry will not come. Where will they get jobs if industry leaves Bangalore? Industry comes to Bangalore because not only just Bangalore, it could be Mangalore.
Sure, I take your point, because Chandan Gowda, in the last few hours itself, we've seen the Kerala industry minister, we've seen Nara Lokesh from Andhra Pradesh saying, okay, industry, if you are troubled by Karnataka's policy on giving jobs to locals, come to our state. We are in a very competitive federalist politics, and therefore, if Karnataka doesn't satisfy industry, the industry will move to other states? Is the fear being expressed by some? Is that an exaggerated fear?
No, Rajdeep, this is what is unfortunate. You saw this happen in the US, different states competing with each other by reducing taxes and saying invest here, etc. We don't want states within India fighting like this. It's unfortunate we saw this response so straight away. But Rajdeep, let's not second guess the motives of the political class. There's an issue here. How does it need to be handled? If India is to be imagined like a Europe, just imagine, will the French be happy if the Germans took all the jobs in Paris? It's unthinkable. I think it's not at all fanatical. I mean, what you saw in Maharashtra is a litmus case of what can happen if the locals feel displaced and thrown out of a city that they were in or a state they feel belongs to them. In this case, Rajdeep, nobody's saying we're number one or we need all jobs. I think it's a demand for a certain recognition that you can't just be, to be.
No, but shouldn't the focus be, as Captain Gopinath said, on raising skill levels? Focus on that. If a government said that we are going to invest in raising skill levels of the locals, isn't that the better way forward?
No, I think they're not against each other. You can do that alongside. But Rajdeep, please remember, in this case, the definition of a Kannadiga includes anyone who's lived in Bangalore for 15 years. You don't have to be a native speaker of Kannada at all, right? You have to show some proficiency in the language, which means you'll have to done it at school. So I think this is very important to remember that this is not like what you saw in Maharashtra, where Maharashtra for Maharashtrians meant.
So you're saying this is a wider definition of who is a Kannadiga.
Yes.
But Captain Gopinath, once again, you see, Chandan Gowda is hammering away at the point that there is a political reality that you cannot ignore. It's not just about vote bank politics. Sorry?
Rajdeep, a cultural reality, Rajdeep.
A cultural reality, better put. Therefore, cultural reality, Captain Gopinath, has to be recognized. We talk about cosmopolitanism, but each city has strong nativistic tendencies.
I'm a good friend of Professor Chandan. He's a great intellectual, but I feel it is all semantics that we are using now. The reality is that we had to give better education, better skilled jobs. And also the fact is, even on any level of jobs, if there may be a bakery, it may be a hotel, you go to any Udupi hotel, there are Assamese working there. Not that because he's not getting Kannadigas. The Kannadigas, if they're not coming even to a job they're more harder working. They come for maybe lower wages. And the way to increase wages is when there is competition, like industry competes, small business competes, people must compete for the jobs. I'm sure Chandan was selected for a job based on his competence, not because he was a Kannadiga. So we had to ensure that if the pie has to be enlarged, we can't go the backward way of what other states are doing, the Bimaru states.
No, but
I was in Bombay just last week, and then I asked the driver, "Where are you from?" He said, "I'm from Bihar." He's there for the last 10 years, and exactly this is axing your own, axing the tree on which you are sitting is what Shiv Sena did. Saying that for Marathas, we have to give the locals some sort of
so you're right. That,
I mean, this is going to destroy the industry, destroy the ecosystem. It's a multicultural city. It's a cosmopolitan city. That's why people come, and Bangaloreans have benefited. There are people in lower level jobs also. Kannadigas are there. I think there is something like 25% reservation is there. Which
Captain
is good.
Gopinath, I take your point, but Chandan Gowda, you see, that's precisely it. When the government says C and D category jobs will be for Kannadigas, we've seen over the years in different private sector industries, many of these jobs are taken by Indians, and I want to call them Indians, unlike French versus German, which you gave the analogy of. These are all Indians. I may come from Assam, I may come from Bihar. I come because I'm willing to work at a lower wage. So the challenge is increase wages, and more importantly, focus on increasing quality skills so that you're more competitive.
So Rajdeep, I don't see these as opposed demands. Please enhance skills for everyone, give them education, etc., etc. But I think some sense that if you have two similarly qualified people, and if your organization has no local, then I shall go for the local who's as qualified as the other guy. There's nothing insensitive about this. I think you're being sensitive to the fact that you're in a place which has evolved over time and which is a certain constituency of people, and you'll have to see how best to operate in that milieu. It's about being sensitive to the local, Rajdeep. I'm sorry to say, it's.
But
it
that's
may
for
seem-
companies to do. But Chandan, that can be just as... No, Chandan, that can be sensitive to locals. If I'm a company, a private company in Bangalore, I want to flourish there, I must be sensitive to locals without needing a legislative mandate. Why do I need a fiat from the government?
Exactly. So all
Rajdeep.
that I'm saying, Rajdeep, is let's not support this bill. I'm saying let this bill give rise to some introspection in the private sector, and let's hear what they come up with as possible response.
Okay, Captain, you want to get a final word? Introspection.
Yeah.
Private sector will also have to introspect. If you want to flourish in Bangalore, yes.
Not introspection. What is required is a proper debate and dialogue. They can't bulldoze it like what BJP did.
Sure.
They have to have a dialogue. They have to have debate and understand the position from all aspects. Suppose there's an aviation company which I'm running. Can you say 50%? If I don't get, then you'll say you are putting me through all the bureaucratic thing, and there'll be a labor. It says there'll be a assistant labor commissioner who will come and inspect whether you know Kannada or not. Whether you're given the exam, he'll come and inspect your books. This is nonsense, because can I take 50% of people if I don't have enough pilots, enough technicians? Similarly in IBM, and even maybe in a bakery or in a hotel, in a Udupi hotel today, you go, there are people who are from Assam and Uttarakhand who are working there.
Your point is well taken.
Who is stopping? There's no law.
Your
which
point is well taken.
Go to your hotel.
Your point, both your points. In fact, let me say this. I've run out of time, but both your points are well taken, because I think you need a debate. These are not black and white issues. These are complicated issues which involve understanding cultural sentiments, but at the same time understanding economic realities. Hopefully, governments will discuss, debate, dialogue with people, with experts, before they push through any bill like it appears the Karnataka government has attempted. For now, Professor Gowda and Captain Gopinath, good to have you on the show. Thank you very much for joining me here on the news today. Thank you.
Thanks, Rajdeep. Bye.
Thanks.
That big debate there on the Karnataka quota war.